Hey, what is up, fellow cynics? Hope you're all doing well. So I got Blake here today, and we are going to be doing something a little bit different. We both just watched Space Jam 2: A New Legacy with featuring LeBron James, just released on Friday last week. And basically, we're just going to be doing a spoiler discussion. So if you have not seen it yet and you care about spoilers, make sure to click off now, come back later and watch it. Other than that, we're going to jump right into it. And if you enjoy this content, make sure to like and subscribe. Other than that, I hope you enjoy.
Okay.
Yeah, so Blake, I think a good place for us to start would be kind of just the initial setup of the movie. So just of the story, like his son gets taken into this WB server, and LeBron has to play an intense game of basketball to get his kid back. So really, it's like not that much different than the original Space Jam in that aspect. And I also think that the beginning of the movie was decent. Like I thought it set up, I thought it set it up decently enough to like care about these characters as far as like a Space Jam movie would
Mhm.
go,
Yeah.
personally. Um,
Yeah, I think with this movie, it's kind of it's funny. It's almost like the opposite, the polar opposite. If you compare this to the Michael Jordan Space Jam, so in this one, it kind of starts off with introducing us to LeBron James, and in the first one, we were introduced to
Looney
Michael
Tunes
Jordan, that
first.
sort of thing. But it started
Oh,
with
are you
Looney
saying?
Tunes.
Yeah, are you saying like the intro, like the montage intro?
Right, so like the
Gotcha.
I guess, yeah, going back to that, the montage was cool and that was
Yeah, yeah,
reminiscent of
for
the
sure.
original. But then at its core, it in the original Space Jam, it started off with Looney Tunes having a problem and basically recruiting Michael
Exactly.
Jordan, the basketball
Yep, and
player.
it was
In
totally
this one,
flipped.
it's the opposite. In this one, it was the complete opposite. So,
Yep, yeah, it was. It almost kind of made, which we'll kind of get on this a little bit later, but it almost made it seem like it was less of a Looney Tunes movie and more of a little bit of something else. Once again, that we'll go into a little bit later. But overall, like my expectations weren't completely high for this movie from the get go.
they shouldn't be.
And
It's
yeah,
a kids movie, you know.
well, it is. It's a kids movie, but at the same time, like the original one released in 1997, and it's like a crucial part of our childhood. Now,
Right.
the original movie also, I wouldn't say is some high quality piece of blockbuster film, but it's got kind of that nostalgic aspect that
Mhm.
I didn't quite feel in this one quite as much. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
overall, they kind of modernized it a little bit. So this is more like a video game that sort of thing that they get sucked into versus
right.
Toon World.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I think overall you kind of with these movies in general, you kind of have to go with lower expectations. I think um the the modernization of it kind of made sense, and I'll kind of talk about the things I liked about it and the things I didn't care so much for a little bit later on, but I think I think as a concept the whole idea kind of works. It's just kind of everywhere else where it kind of falls apart for me.
right, and overall, I thought like LeBron and his kid did like a perfectly fine job acting. Like I don't expect some sort of
No,
you know
everyone else did better than LeBron in acting. Like the kids, everybody else performed better acting wise. They showed that who the actual actors
I just know I
were.
don't. I personally like don't. I mean, and they kind of make fun of it in the movie, like oh no, nothing ends up turning out good when you put a sports superstar as a main actor in a movie. But
Right.
he's been in other stuff. I mean, I know that he like I don't know if you've seen Trainwreck, but for instance, like he
Yep.
played
No, yeah,
himself
he
in
was
that
in there.
movie, so easy enough.
Yeah.
But like I thought he brought enough to it. I mean, LeBron's enough of a likable person.
So here's one thing that I noticed, and at least it really seemed this way. If you look, you can't help but not compare this to the original Space Jam. And
You
one of the
have to.
things that I think that the original Space Jam does well is, you know, both of these movies are kind of one part commercial and just kind of sucking the D of the basketball player that it's featuring in the movie.
This one,
And
this one, I think did it a little bit more than.
so with this, where the first movie or the original Space Jam has over the LeBron James movie is that it seems that the story and the writing is kind of adjusted around Michael Jordan's acting abilities.
Right.
To where, and for all I know, maybe LeBron James does act this way in real life, but it seems that he was given much more dialogue than like Michael Jordan was, and so at
Right.
a lot of parts throughout the movie, it just kind of seemed a little cringy. Like they're trying a little bit too much.
You may also feel like there was more dialogue because there was, which brings me to another I guess point, jumping forward a little bit. The original movie was about an hour and a half long. This was a 2 hour long
2 hours,
Space Jam movie. I never once there were points in this movie where I was like, I thought maybe we were kind of nearing the end, but we were halfway through. That was a big part of it for me that kind of drug on, and this is kind of going to one of my biggest complaints. A huge part of the reason it drug on so long, was all of the time that they spent on all of their other WB properties. So basically what happens is LeBron gets to Toon World, Bugs is alone, and he's like, okay, like the supervillain of the movie, convince them all to leave and go to other properties because it's way better there. So now the rest of the movie, or at least the next 45 minutes, is them going to these other properties, and they're essentially just showing off what they own, and the Looney Tunes characters happen to be there.
It really seems that some executives at WB were like, we have LeBron James.
Right.
We are going to advertise every property under our umbrella. And it's not even like, you kind of expect this sort of thing, but it's done in so many ways throughout the movie to where you're almost just kind of like overwhelmed with a lot of the reference. Yep. Like it's because like I will say, there are certain parts throughout the movie where some of the callbacks and references work really well. Like I did think specifically the Mad Max Fury Road tie-in with that, I thought that was super cool. There's some areas where it works really well and others that it just kind of feels annoying.
So kind of going off of that point, I felt the same way. So the beginning like 4, 5, 6 that they go to. So one specifically that stuck out to me, I thought the Austin Powers one was excellent.
Oh dude, yeah,
I thought it was fantastic.
Elmer Fudd. So basically, if what happens is when they're recruiting these characters that left Toon World, each of the individual characters that were in Space Jam are like found their new home in these different Warner Brothers properties. And so like you have Elmer Fudd, which we were just talking about in the Austin Powers movie. He's Mini-Me, right? Yeah.
He was Mini-Me. Yeah, he was Mini-Me and then Sylvester. No, he was Mini-Me and then Sylvester was shaved and it was Dr. Evil's cat. I thought that was actually really clever.
You had Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote
in Game of Thrones.
That
was Mad Max on that one. That was a good one too. It did a little bit past that point though. It became it was fun at first and it drug on too long, and that goes into why the movie was 2 hours long. Far too long for a Space Jam 2 movie. But that was like one of my biggest gripes with it. It stopped being fun after a while, and it's also something that's happened so often in other films that it's just not surprising anymore. It basically felt to me like Ready Player One, but Space Jam 2, where they're just like cramming all these different.
Right. They're trying to just throw enough nostalgia at the wall and hope enough sticks to where it somehow becomes entertaining.
Sorry, we might be being a little too critical about a Space Jam 2 movie, but we're the digital cynics, so
there's these little things that just kind of they pile up.
There were a few times where I'm like,
But yeah,
I guess moving on to the algorithm.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess moving on to the algorithm thing.
Yes. Talk about it.
Don Cheadle, I think surprisingly,
best part of the movie,
could have been way worse than he was, because the character that was written for him wasn't good. I'd have to say it wasn't good, but like he kind of plays this evil villain who kind of, you can tell he's evil, but he's also very like charismatic and likable at the same time. And I thought that he actually did a pretty good job. He was pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, I think Don Cheadle did an amazing job with what he had. He clearly was like acting circles around everybody, but he the it, to kind of piggyback off your point, this is one of, and maybe I missed something, but through the whole movie I'm like trying to pay attention to his character, and I still don't know why the algorithm was doing what he was doing.
Like why he wanted LeBron.
Like he kind of sounded like he was going for fame, but like why does he want the fame? Is he
Right.
and then he's trying to, near the end, when the basketball game starts, he's like, oh, I'm gonna capture all of you and you're gonna stay in this world. Okay, why though?
Yeah.
Why does he want all these people in the world? It doesn't make sense. Is he
It's like
trying to like be his
it
own
is.
king or what? Like that wasn't really addressed, it seemed. So I had
It
no
really
idea like
wasn't
why
at
he was
all.
doing what he was doing.
Yeah. Well, so he didn't even decide to do that until he found out about this kid's like scanning technology.
Right.
And then he's like, "Oh, shift of plans. I'm gonna kidnap everybody that has a phone at the time." It was. I mean, like the objective was not clear for him whatsoever. But for what he was given, I think that
His performance
it could
was
have
excellent.
been. He could have been a really, really annoying character. And
Definitely.
yeah, I mean, overall, like I don't have a ton of complaints about him. And sorry, this this whole spoiler talk is just completely sporadic, but we don't do this often, so bear with us. Going back to something that I liked about the film, once all the kind of intro began, and I'd say it took like about a half an hour for it to really get into the movie. When he finally got to Toon World,
Yeah.
and one thing I did like is, unlike the original Space Jam where Michael Jordan was just himself in Toon World, they actually animated LeBron, and I thought that the animation was really well done.
So I don't know how to feel about this one, because when I first saw the trailers, my initial gut reaction was like eye roll, because I don't I personally I like the sort of Who Framed Roger Rabbit type of look where like a person is in the cartoon world and cartoons exist with them. Like I can suspend my disbelief fine with that. Um that being said, I also like it because they do play around with that idea when they're visiting other Toon worlds, because like when they go to, say, the Matrix world, all of a
Right, he
sudden
was
LeBron
himself.
James is his normal self. But yeah, I thought as far as the animation and
I
like
thought
the
it was
quality
pretty
of it, I thought
crisp.
it was good. I thought
It,
it
it
looked
felt
nice.
it felt classic, but like really, really sharp at the same time.
Mhm.
So I thought that was done pretty well, and I do also kind of like. I did thoroughly enjoy Bugs Bunny in this movie. I mean, he was kind of a sad, mopey, like
He was
alcoholic rabbit when he got there because he was so lonely. And instead of, once LeBron like was given the objective to go find this ultra team to go face the Goon Squad,
mhm.
he he's like, oh, like WB owns a lot of like crazy people. Like we need to get
Right, yeah.
Superman, we need to get King Kong, like all these. Okay, yeah, like these
Yep.
would be great characters to come
Kind of
win
on
a
a basketball
basketball
team.
game with you.
Yeah.
And Bugs Bunny was kind of just a dick, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I can
Oh
help you
yeah,
with
for
that."
sure. Yeah.
But he kind of just tricks him into just going and getting his friends instead. Now they never really
Right.
addressed the fact that LeBron kind of just went with it for some reason.
Well,
But
because in the beginning, like the first person they try going for is Superman, and so they
right,
go into that
like the
animated
classic
world,
Batman,
right? Like the Batman animated series
which
universe
also
kind of
looked
thing.
pretty good.
Yeah, and it was cool to see like the Justice League almost in the
Yeah,
same art style, but
yeah,
yeah, basically they ended up being the villains in that world that they visited, so they had to
right.
bounce and get out of there, and so they could only save Daffy and Porky Pig. But everyone else on that list, they didn't really explain like why they couldn't get them. But
Yeah, exactly.
uh,
Yep.
yeah, it's I like Bugs. I think a part of it is I'm not familiar with some of the newer uh Looney Tunes cartoons. I only know it from like the old Hanna-Barbera days
Me too.
where like he's always in control of everything. So a part of me is like, oh, this doesn't seem like the Bugs Bunny that I know. He's not nearly as just like confident and whatnot. But I think part of that's just because I've been so out of touch with Looney Tunes for so long.
Well,
Overall,
so
I thought it was fine.
I mean, I think it might have been partially to do with that movie too, because like I was kind of mentioning earlier, it didn't like the first Space Jam felt like a Looney Tunes movie that had
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan in it.
Right.
This movie felt like everything but a Looney Tunes movie, but the Looney Tunes happened to be in it.
They were aside, almost like they were the feature, not the,
Right. Which part of the reason I absolutely love the first one is because I grew up with the Looney Tunes, and
Yeah.
that's what I liked to see in the first one. Michael Jordan playing with like all the OG Looney Tunes.
So I happened to watch the first Space Jam like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so did I.
And one of the things that stood out to me, and we can kind of talk about this now, is the thing that I think one of the big strengths of the first Space Jam was the side characters. You had I'm gonna forget all the actors' names, but you had the guy from Seinfeld, who was basically his pushover assistant or manager or whatever, who was constantly trying to find. That was basically LeBron James's brother.
Who was a worthless character in this.
It was kind of like a bad copy, like but yeah. So the characters are funny. I mean, you had like Bill Murray as a cameo. I mean that the side human characters, I should say, were funny. In this one, it didn't really seem to have that a lot, but
right.
I mean the kids I actually enjoyed. I thought
but like the main kid was the only kind of like real supporting act. Other kids were just in it because like I think they just wanted his whole family to be in it. Personally, that's kind of how it felt. But there really wasn't any like super strong side characters. I mean, it was primarily a WB commercial for a large chunk of the movie, and it really, really took away from a lot for me.
I don't even mind the fact that they try to advertise so heavily with the properties. It's just done in not a very tasteful way, or to a point where it's just
right.
exhausting.
So the perfect example of when I was like really annoyed was after they steal Marvin the Martian's ship, they're randomly flying through. So I guess side note for anyone who did not see it but they're watching this right now, so they were in space technically, but they were in a server. They were in space in the server, and there were separate worlds. Each world was a different WB property. So they're flying Marvin the Martian spaceship over these worlds, and LeBron's like, "Ooh, Game of Thrones, ooh," and then like all of a sudden it just randomly stopped. The Harry Potter theme song started playing, and he's like, "Oh my god, Harry Potter universe!" And then all of a sudden he's wearing Hufflepuff clothes, and then like nothing comes of it.
I knew it. Yeah,
I thought maybe they were gonna go to the world or something. No, it was randomly put in there for no reason, other than to advertise that they own Harry Potter.
Well, and that's kind of what I was saying before. Like, for all I know, maybe who knows? Maybe LeBron James is low key like a huge Hufflepuff fanatic. But like with the first Space Jam movie, it was very centered around like who Michael Jordan is and how he typically would behave. Right. Whereas I just don't buy that this is how LeBron James would react and act in this situation. So it definitely with what you're saying, it kind of heightens that. Okay, I'm just being sold to with this thing.
It absolutely felt that way.
The worst offender, and we're fast forwarding a little bit here, but when they play the basketball game,
that's what my next point was. So.
Which, by the way, I looked at the time.
It's half the movie.
It takes over. It's an hour long before
of the 2 hours
we actually see the basketball story.
But we're missing the point. The whole basketball game is the entire second part of the movie, which isn't for the best.
I like the basketball. To me, the basketball game was one of the stronger suits. Like if you could ignore some of the background stuff, which I'll go ahead and let you.
Well, we're gonna get to that next. All right. So the basketball game was an hour long. The first half an hour of the game they just get completely destroyed. Like it's like 700-2 or something crazy like that. So a couple main things. I get that it's a basketball game, but like the point system that they were using was just absolutely ridiculous, and it was like as far away from real basketball as humanly possible.
Right.
And it really took away from what I enjoyed about Space Jam 1, which was the basketball game at the end, because it was a real game of basketball.
Well, to that point, I guess defend the Looney Tunes thing. In the original Space Jam, they would do things where like where you could get a bunch of points at once just by like dunking and redunking and that
it wasn't
sort of
even like it wasn't even like close to.
I think the problem is that it's a video game. They're playing a video game basketball thing, so it's
there's like the power of
you have no basis of rules to base it off of, whereas in the first Space Jam, it was funny if a character scored 100 points or something like that.
Right.
Because the general rules of basketball were kind of implied. Where in this one it's like, oh, you get style points, and they're like kind of explaining the reason why these extra points are just randomly happening.
So that was one of the main things that distracted me mostly from enjoying the first half of the basketball game, and then also kind of taking a step back a little bit. The crowd of the actual basketball game was all of the WB properties, and they took like a good 5 minutes of having these characters like pouring. Oh, sorry, I hit my mic. Having these characters just pouring into the stadium, and they very clearly made it separate cuts so that you'd like pause and rewind and go look and like see what characters there were.
And it's not even that. It's go ahead. Sorry.
It was very heavily distracting, especially during the basketball game. That's all you could see in the background. But the characters that were these characters looked like they were dressed up from like they went to the dollar store and all had these makeshift costumes.
It gave me like weird flashbacks of like when I was in like if you've ever been to Vegas or like I suppose Hollywood and you're like touristing, you have like you'll have a tourist or like actors that dress up in costume, and they'll be like, hey, you want to take a picture? And then they go, okay, well, we do work on tips. And so then you like, and
it was
just
so distracting.
They green screened in a bunch of these like just Warner Brothers cosplayers and
it was like
put them in the background.
It was like the Walmart version of the characters.
Well, and here's the weird thing about this too. It's like, it almost felt like they went. So like someone was like, oh yeah, let's put in like Jack Nicholson's the Tim Burton Joker. Right. We'll put in the Tim Burton Penguin. We'll put in Pennywise the Clown for a kids movie. And you'll see him right in like front row of the
super distracting, like poorly done.
But then during editing, they're like, oh, this looks really bad. Let's bokeh everything. And so and kind of off of what you were saying about green screening, the whole movie, you can kind of tell is that this is a COVID-19 movie, because like even in scenes where it doesn't need to technically be green screened, like a basketball court or something, or a server room, it's green screened. Like it's poorly green screened. You can just tell.
It is very, very green screened.
Like people are being filmed isolated, and it's the whole movie is just kind of distracting with little things. It
is, and there were definitely like noticeable parts where you could tell that they, skimped on the budget a little bit, and then there were parts that, like I said, anything that was actually in Toontown or like the Batman or basically Metropolis and whatnot. That scene I thought looked really good, and I actually thought that. So like when they introduced the Goon Squad, the kind of montage of introducing the players, I thought that was really well done. It looked really great and cool. And I actually have no issue with the Goon Squad as a whole. No, I thought they were great. I thought they were equally as good as the Monstars, personally.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, and we're being a little harsh. This movie does have its moments. I got a good laugh several times, and especially, I thought that one particular joke was just so hilarious to me. So
I think this is. So, I'm pretty sure I know which one. This is the highlight.
It's Space Jam 2, and you assume maybe there might be a Michael Jordan cameo, right? Mm-hmm. So it's coming. They imply heavily that in fact a Michael Jordan cameo is coming up, and it ends up being Michael B. Jordan that walks through the door. I found
Michael Jordan. And they hype it up, and then all of a sudden,
they hype it up.
Michael Jordan, and it's like it's Michael B. Jordan.
I thought that was. So they clearly, obviously, like either didn't want to pay a ton of money for Michael Jordan to beat me, or they couldn't get him for some given reason.
So I just read up on this, and apparently that joke was because of the fact that they were trying to get Michael
and
Jordan.
they couldn't do it.
They wanted to, I guess they wanted to get him as an end credits thing.
Okay.
And like have it where like Bugs Bunny is showing Michael Jordan the film, and he's like, "So what do you think?" And Michael Jordan would basically make a joke off the "I took it personally" type of thing, that I wasn't in this or something like that. But because he wasn't in it, that was kind of the joke that they went with, and
Yeah,
I thought it worked.
I thought it
worked
pretty
great.
well.
I liked the LeBron James, when he's a cartoon, he falls and he's shrunken. He's like, "Oh man, I'm shorter than Kevin Hart." Or
There were definitely
shoot the ball, Yosemite, and you blast it with his pistols, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
There's a few good little.
I'm actually glad they
bits here and there.
didn't wash out the violence in the tunes as much as I thought they would.
I was surprised to see
some
gunfights.
Yeah, there were like guns and stuff. I was pretty happy about that. And then Granny and Tweety Bird actually cracked me up quite a few times. When Sylvester spits up Tweety Bird, and someone's like, "Where's Tweety?" Sylvester like hacks him up, and he's like, "Oh my god, what year is it?" Like, I thought it was pretty funny. There were definitely the moments.
There's a few cute moments. Yeah.
I don't think that the movie. So we kind of just like crapped all over the movie this entire review for the most part, but it's very watchable. I mean,
it's okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, like, I'll preface this. I did not like the movie. I watched this with both my kids. My 3-year-old fell asleep to it. My 6-year-old, who has seen the first Space Jam, he's watched it with me a few times. He watched the whole thing. He enjoyed it. I was just kind of like, okay. It had a few nuggets of like fine, but I did not like it. I didn't care for it. But when I actually looked up some reviews of the first Space Jam, and it's so funny because the whole time we're complaining about how this feels like a big advertisement and that sort of thing. And a lot of the main complaints of the first Space Jam from critics were that, oh, this is just a big advertisement for Michael Jordan and to sell plush Looney Tunes to children.
Wasn't it originally based off of a commercial?
I wouldn't know, to be honest. I don't know that. But the first Space Jam was basically like really popular for kids. Right. And a lot of critics and stuff were kind of like, the acting's not that great, the pacing's bad, and this is a big commercial. And then I asked my son, I'm like, which Space Jam did you like more? And he liked the LeBron James one more because he liked the internet references, and it's current to his
that would
time.
make sense. It is kind of more of a. It does feel more of like a premium movie just because the original just. Like this had the big budget and like all of the
$150 million was the budget, I believe, for this one.
Right, which I guarantee the first one was far less than that.
First one was about half, and I don't know what that translates to for inflation, but I don't believe it's the same. Like right. I know it's a bit, but it has its moments, and especially if you go with the mindset of like, this is a kids movie, this is just to kind of get kids excited, and see LeBron James and see references that they know. Yeah, it's fine. It's a bad movie, in my opinion. It's a bad movie.
Yeah.
I've seen worse. There are more offensive movies than.
At no point was I like, I'm not gonna finish this. I was gonna finish it.
I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a point where I was watching it with Megan, and basically up until close to the end of the first portion of the basketball game before they take a break, mm-hmm. I did look to her and I was like, this movie is pretty mediocre. And then I did think that the second part of the basketball game was the absolute best part of the movie.
Yeah, the second half. Down. And I liked how so I guess if we want to talk about like the overall theme, so to speak, of the movie, it's kind of all centered around, you do you stay true to yourself. And LeBron's always hard on his kid, who is not really a big basketball player. He likes to be a game developer, and that's developing video games is kind of his passion, where LeBron sees it as a waste of time. And by the end of the movie, he kind of goes, this is really impressive what you do.
Yep,
You know,
you
my
should do what
experience is
you
not
wanna
your
do.
experience. You know, what I have to do is not what you have to do, and kind of like, you know, passes on that you do you type of thing.
Right.
And it's a really nice like message for kids. It's a really nice kind of, I guess, lesson or whatever you want to call it. And I really liked the son, whoever played his son in the movie.
I'm pretty sure that was his son. I could be wrong. It wasn't?
I no. He's an
I
actor.
I assumed that entire family was
No,
actual.
they're actors. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It just didn't seem like that.
It just didn't seem like
I-
they were actors.
Well, no,
I mean,
no. I mean,
I could have. I'm like 99% sure. I can look at the IMDb
no.
right now.
I
We
just
can cut
assumed. I
your
just
links through
assumed
here,
that
but-
it was like his entire actual family. Yeah, that's his real son. That was his whole real family, dude.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, I
no,
was like, there's
no, wait. So
yeah, it's Don. Oh, never mind. You're right. Cedric
No,
Joe.
yeah.
You're right.
no, yeah, because that's all. These are all actors that played like his family and that kind of thing. Because it
I
kind
guess
of shows.
maybe I assumed that because like LeBron played himself in the movie, so I assumed like everybody else
Right.
in his family also. Because I mean, I could see that being his actual.
They did a really well, and that's kind of a credit to, I'll say the parts that I thought LeBron did the best with his acting. Like there was a lot of cringe moments when he's in Toon World and getting excited over all these Warner Brothers properties.
Right.
But during the family scenes and stuff like that, it was genuine. And I really liked a lot of those portions. I found I liked the kid's arc, and I liked how, if you've ever seen the movie Hook, the with Robin Williams, I liked that element of having the algorithm try and turn LeBron James' son against him.
Yeah, it was kind of similar, I guess. Now that you say that,
And then by the end of the movie, the kid ends up joining LeBron and kind
right?
of
Because
has
his team was kind of the one.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, overall, we've been going for kind of a long time here, but overall, like, if I had to rate it 1 out of 10, I guarantee I'm going to be higher than Blake on this one. I would at least give it, as a package deal, I'd give it like a 6 out of 10.
I'm
I
not
think I
too
can
far
credit
behind.
it
I'm not too far behind. I'm a 5.
5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think it's
Which both of those are still failing grades, kids. But like,
well, but I don't grade based on, so like I think a 7 is a good movie. Like 7 is a good movie.
yeah, 7 is very watchable.
5, it does its job as a movie. It's not offensive to watch. It's not like I'm not begging to turn off. Really, the two biggest offenders were just a lot of the poor choices with the product with the IP tie-ins and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the distraction. There's a lot of weird distractions throughout the movie, and it runs too long. It's too long.
Yep.
Cut it down 15, 20 minutes,
Yep.
and it could have been a lot better. But I think it's a 5 out of 10 for me personally. But I think who knows, maybe 10 years, 20 years from now, my son, when he watches the movie, maybe he has the same nostalgic views for that movie as I do for the Michael Jordan Space Jam. So
Even though Michael Jordan's better. Just kidding.
6 rings.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, overall, I think we can wrap it up there. I do want to know what you guys think of this movie. If you've watched it already, drop down below in the comment section. Did you enjoy this more than the first one, or which one do you prefer? And let us know why as well. Also, give the video a thumbs up, as it does help us get seen in the YouTube algorithm. And remember, if you want to see future content on tech, games, movies, literally anything nerdy in between, make sure to subscribe. Digital Cynics. Peace.
Have a good one.